Hey everyone, it's Stranger Grayson here. Welcome back to another horror movie review. Today we're going to be finishing up the Critters franchise with honestly kind of a sour note, to be so for real. This was a step down from the previous movie I watched, but not as bad as 3. But I will get into that here in a few minutes. First of all, I just want to apologize for the lack of uploads. Explained in my previous video, just had a lot of things going on. And yeah, just life gets in the way. Shit happens. So, understandable. Anyway, today we're finishing up the Critters franchise with Critters Attack, which came out in 2019. So, this movie, I heard a lot of things about. And there's the front and back and spine and all that, in case you guys wanted to take a look at it. I was hearing mixed things about it because where this movie falls into the timeline is kind of weird. Some people say it's a legacy sequel. Other people say it's just a reimagining. So it's weird. And when I watched this film, I got to tell you, this cannot have been so much worse than I thought it would be. But not everything was bad about it. So yeah, Critters Attack. What is it about? So Critters Attack follows our main character named Andrea, or just Drea, depending on how you call her. Then we get introduced to her little brother Philip. I think he's like 13 years old or something like that. And she's having to live with her uncle. I think Uncle Jim or something like that. And she's having to live with him because her mother actually passed away in a car accident before, the movie. They established this in a backstory. So she passed away, and her and her brother are sent to live with their uncle. Her brother is really, really associated with or interested in alien things. He's got a whole map about it. He's interested in seeing the stars and all the planets, thinking, seeing aliens. Drea, she's working a part-time job trying to, just get into the college that her mother got into but had to drop out because she got pregnant with Drea at the time. And I got to say, that was a pretty emotional part of that film. Not a lot of the time, just because they barely touched on it, but when they did touch on it, I totally felt sad for that. However, we also see that while this is going on, a spaceship lands, and a sushi delivery guy, he stumbles upon it on his bicycle, and unbeknownst to him, there is a whole bunch of critters, or krites, that appeared out of the spaceship. So they attack him, eat him, kill him. Then they get sent loose on the town. While this is going on, we get introduced to a female krite, and she plays a later role once we get into the other characters like Trish and Luke, I think is his name. They're being babysat by Drea, because Drea's best friend that's currently in the college that she tried enrolling to suggested it to her to help her get a better shot at getting into the university, because I believe she's babysitting the president of that university's kids. That's who they are. So of course she takes up the job, and they stumble across the female krite, kind of similar to Gremlins in a way, to be so for real. I mean, they Krites and Gremlins have always kind of had a relationship. Not like that, but, you can see the parallels between the movies, which I'll get into more in a few minutes. So they find her, and while this is going on, the Krites actually see our 4 main characters, and a couple of them hitch a ride on their car and follow them back to the house. So once they're inside, start talking to this female krite, seeing what's going on. Krite's not talking to them, but they're trying to get an idea of who she is. The power gets cut, and Luke gets attacked, and all hell breaks loose. So yeah, Critters Attack. Um, this was an interesting watch. You can tell that this was low budget just by some of the acting, the script, and some of the shots in the film were kind of awkward and kind of clunky. The Krites themselves, the Kyoto brothers, I don't believe came back to do these. They hired a new special effects team. So you can tell a bit of a difference with them. However, I will say this. They still look pretty good, and I'm really glad they went practical with the Krites instead of going CGI, because if it was a CGI movie, I would have been so pissed. I mean, CGI is good when it makes sense. Don't just put CGI in everything just because it's the future and it's, less, you know, work. I mean, you want a good movie for the audience and you don't want CGI ruining everything, but ran over with. The main characters themselves, Drea, honestly, and Philip were really the only two I cared anything about. Didn't give two shits about Trish or Luke, I think is her brother's name. Didn't give two shits about him, to be so for real. And some of the side characters we got introduced to, like the president and Drea's best friend, and then her boyfriend, I didn't give two shits about. Just didn't. Now, Aunt D, very, very interesting character. She is played by Dee Wallace, who was actually in the first movie. She played the mom. And I always wondered if she was connected to that movie. Dee Wallace has said that she believes they're the same character, but at the same time, some parts of the movie kind of contradict the first film. And it's really weird. This is a weird plot line for a movie. This is just a weird movie in general. I mean, the Critters movies have always been weird, but just this certain movie is just weird, seeing what they did with the plot and the characters. But yeah, I don't know. I consider Aunt D her own character. She basically acts as like the bounty hunter because Charlie is unfortunately not in this film. This is the only time he hasn't been in a Critters movie. Besides that, he's been in the 4 previous ones. The kills. If you're in this movie for kills, I think you'll really enjoy it. This is the only rated R Critters film, and it definitely gives you your money worth when it comes to kills. I think there's like a body count of like 8 or 9, and then you got to include the Krites too, so it's probably another 20. So yeah, body count pretty high. Probably one of the higher ones in this franchise. Maybe not the highest, but definitely one of the highest. Critters 4 might outdo them just a little bit. However, since it is a rated R flick, it is kind of limited to the audience, unfortunately, because Critters is normally something you could show to, early teens or preteens in your family, and they could get along. But since this is R-rated, it kind of ruins the flow. But it's whatever. I prefer R-rated flicks. That's just me. I think it gives them more leniency on what they can do with characters and the practical effects, blood and gore, everything, considering. The ending felt a bit rushed. I will say that. Definitely felt a bit rushed. And the female Krite, I think, was just wasted. I mean, she stayed in a book bag for most of the film, and when you did see her, she really didn't do much besides maybe kill 1 or 2 Krites. Besides that, there was no need for that character. There really wasn't. I feel like the only reason she was there is so we could get Dee Wallace in to try to hunt her down and hunt the Krites. So, yeah. Didn't like her. And then just having Krite as a friend, nah. Get the hell out of here. But anyway, overall, this film was definitely interesting, but not one of my favorites. I would not recommend it to most Critter fans. It's not the worst, but it definitely has its fair share of problems. So, yeah, that's been my review on Critters Attack. It's okay. I mean, if you wanted to skip it, you're not missing out. It really doesn't fall anywhere in the plot of the 4 movies. If I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, I'd give it about a 3. maybe 3.5, more so towards a 3. If you take it as its own film, I think you'll like it, but as a franchise whole, this really doesn't fit in all that well, and it's not one of my favorites. So, yeah, sorry to disappoint you guys, but that's just my opinion. What's everyone's thoughts on Critters Attack? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Would really love to hear your thoughts on the film. Thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully I will get a ranking out soon. So stay tuned for that, or if I don't, stay tuned for another review. So God bless and have a great day. Bye, everyone.